Mic check, check 1, 2. Good afternoon, good evening. Penultimate round here with GoFAST Racing as we are one step closer and 2 steps away from finishing this Season 5, record-breaking Season 5, I should say. As we have had driver counts that have been completely unmatched compared to any season prior. In Silverstone, a track where the majority of our drivers will be fairly knowledgeable. We should see a very competitive race tonight. Trixit out in the McLaren here in free practice. We are going to see a lot of laps and a lot of laps early. And still few more of our drivers to file into the session, but this could very well be another one of our record-breaking sessions tonight if we can get well over 40 drivers, possibly even back to the 50s that we were in at the early parts of the season, namely the first 2 races of the season. Seems to be Trixit and Peachy, the first 2 who should be bringing us our first valid laps of the session. Right on board with Trixit for just a moment, coming down the Wellington Straight. Coming out of Woodcott and then across the line will be the first valid lap of the session, flying into Cobb's, our turn 1, as we do use the GT racing circuit. That was not Trixit with that time, it was actually the McLaren of Salinas, a 158.780. Brute in the Aston Martin, who is not completely out of the count for the Pro Championship, goes second fastest, or now third fastest. Adrian in the Porsche, teammate to the Aston Martin driver of Brute, is another one of those prospects that we may be looking at for a win. Some late season pace coming to the Porsche drivers, to the Brute Force team really, but they have started to find a lot of speed, a lot of pace, and have started bringing together some good points finishes. If those 2 stay together heading into Season 6, we may see another contender for one of those top talent teams. But looking at the split times already, only 10 of our drivers have put times down, 6 of those times within 3/4 of a second. This is likely going to be another one of those races tonight where our grid is separated by only a few hundredths or tenths of a second in qualifying. Also, first race for me with the new streaming setup. Everything goes well. We are officially wired in our connection and not wireless, so should eliminate any drops or anything that we may have been dealing with before. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in early. About 12 minutes left in free practice. Brute in the Aston Martin goes fastest, and the Brute Force teammates, Brute and Goose, both 5 thousandths of a second slower than the McLaren of Slapshot. And thank you for the prime sub, Chandler. Greatly appreciated. Slapshot goes quicker. Now it is just free practice, but we have seen Slapshot, especially late in the season, bring a monumental performance. Go back to Bathurst in Season 4. Now he did not bring home quite the result that he was looking for, but when it came to putting the time down in qualifying, he was able to put it on pole with a blisteringly quick time. again, we had Slapshot in the booth with us last week at the Nordschleife. There are people in the Discord, people in the chat that have been doing a better job of keeping up with all of the calculations for the championships. Animus Racing has locked away the team championship. They have clinched that. They have a well over 100-point lead, even with drop races calculated. And Silva and Jones also have a 100-point lead, whether or not drop races are calculated. So the two team championships in overall and AM, Animus Racing will be your Season 5 team champions, and Silva and Jones Racing will be your Season 5 AM team champions. Brute goes quicker once again. We may be seeing times that really need to be watched. Getting down there into the 157s, we have seen them possibly even when it really comes time to push with qualifying times, we go down into the 156s. It's not impossible, but it's absolutely quick, a lot quicker than I can do. But topics of discussion for tonight. Brute, not completely out of the running for the championship. Now with the drop races, Brute may desperately need some points, but he's not completely out of the running. Both Prieto and Ouroboros, the two leaders in this field, did not race last weekend. Griffith and Brute did. And with drop races included, Griffith and Brute. Griffith within about 24 points of Prieto. Practice pit stop for Brute. A little bit too quick into the pit lane there. And Brute about 33 points away. A win gives you 40. So maybe if it's a win out for Griffith and Brute, maybe they both have an opportunity. Scoliosis in the BMW late in the season has really started to bring the effort, ramp up the momentum. Could possibly be looking at a promotion to Pro for Scroll, and if not, a true contender for the AM Championship in Season 6. In that AM Championship, pretty much decided in Silva's favor. Almost a 40-point lead. I believe it's actually a 35-point lead for Silva and Scroll. Now that does not mean that it is said and done. And Silva, I believe, has only missed one race this season. Scroll has missed 2, so there will be no room for drop races for Scroll. So we'll see if maybe Scroll can bring together some good results. AM wins for Scroll would be very, very beneficial in that championship fight. Brute still quickest out there so far. Right behind the Ferrari. I don't think that is the number 3 Ferrari of Ouroboros. I believe that is the 23 Ferrari, if we have a 23 Ferrari. Actually, it is the 3 of Ouroboros. It looks like there is a 2 from the side profile for just Sorry about that, 1 second. That is fixed now, sorry about that. Ouroboros now quickest in the Ferrari. .158.1, we are very quickly encroaching on that 1:57 time frame. Funny enough, Dingham, I actually didn't hit anything. The controller just turned itself off, so unsure of exactly why it did that, even though it's plugged in. But sometimes life has its mysteries. Goose still sitting in third. Slapshot finding himself in fourth. And our top 15 all right there within 1 second. Scroll has found himself very far into the pro field. Well, it's plugged in, so it will stay on all the time. It's a bit of an odd thing there for it to turn off, but I do have some new USB ports coming for the Xbox. I do use a USB splitter for the keyboard, mouse, and everything like that. Really just need to put more USB ports on Xboxes. Brute and Ouroboros absolutely going at it. Brute just trying to stay within that slipstream range. Maybe a bit of race simulation here. This could be your race for the lead. Now we should see Prieto out at some point, and Prieto is in the session in that Nissan GTR. We'll see if a time comes to the fold here. It doesn't seem to be a valid lap time yet for Prieto, but there may be one coming. Sometimes Prieto does like to wait until qualifying to show his hand. Not wanting to get anybody any funny ideas in practice. Make him wait till qualifying for the show. The Porsche of Adrian not far behind, and the two brute force teammates. The two highest up in terms of teammates. And Prieto looking for victories to secure his double up on the championship. Ouroboros looking for wins to deny his teammate the championship. Between Ouroboros and Prieto, it is extremely close. Prieto has taken drop races, though, where Ouroboros has not. Sorry, he has not, but Ouroboros has had few better finishes. When the drop races get calculated, it may make things a little bit more interesting in that championship fight. This is the two teammates of Prieto and Ouroboros who are currently in the top two spots to contend for the Pro Championship. Goose goes quickest in the BMW 158.047. I don't think we have seen full quali pace yet. We should be down into the 157s. And Prieto jumps up right there in front of the teammate, 18 thousandths of a second away from the time set by Goose. And really enough time for two more laps for Prieto and Ouroboros. And while I thought Prieto may wait a little bit to show his hand, he's gone ahead and just put a flyer of a lap in. not too far away from that 157. Especially getting some slipstream from the Ford Mustang, currently 9, the Mustang of Rowden. Tipper in the Porsche making his way into the session as well. Newcomer in GFR, quick promotion to Pro. We'll see what Tipper can do here at Silverstone. Didn't take long to start getting onto the podium, and a big moment for Prieto coming out of Club Corner down the Hamilton Straight. That's definitely going to burn some time and burn some tires on this lap. Ouroboros just a little bit further ahead, coming down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. And around left field, trying to get the car rotated, and then as early as possible on the power. Out of the final corner of Woodcote, maybe a little bit too narrow on the inside to invalidate the lap. We'll see if this is quicker though. And well into a train. That is the 24 Aston Martin of Brute just up ahead. Brute and Marvey are both going to pull off at the exit of Copse and return to the pit lane in their practice session. No improvement from Prieto, and a practice pit stop to bring it into his practice session. And it does seem to be Salinas in the McLaren pulling in as well. Ouroboros still out. The 14 of Bradzilla. We do have Harrell back with us, sporting those TRC blue colors. See what Bradzilla is able to bring to finish his qualifying. Not going to be an entry into the pit lane. And out of Woodcote and across the line. Currently P27 stays P27. May have improved just a bit. Manelli, sorry, not Manelli, that was Cabe just going past. Currently P28. And we await the rest of our field to come across the line so we can get started with our AM qualifying. 20-minute split qualifying, 10 minutes for AM going first, 10 minutes for Pro going after. And all throughout this season, both of those qualifying sessions have been absolute shows. Expect the same to be repeated here at Silverstone, especially being a more known track for the majority of our grid. Manelli across the line, Iceberg across the line. Is it faster for Ouroboros? No, it is not. Seems like a bit of a lift coming out of Woodcote as well. What about for Adrian and Tycho Path, our last two across the line? Out of left field, Tycho Path just behind it. It's going to be into the pit lane for Adrian. What about for Tycho Path? The same as well. And who is our first taker in AM? Zoanam wants to go first, will go first, just ahead of the teammate. Schwartz in the Mustang Motorsports Mustang. But Zoanam will be first out and will be the first driver to hopefully set a time for the AM field. Just needs to make sure that this lap is clean and the next lap is fast. Try to warm up the tires, get the car ready for a fast qualifying lap. That does seem to be Chandler and Silva behind. Yes, that is the Mercedes of Chandler and the McLaren of Silva. Silva currently your AM championship leader. Looking to just put this one into the books tonight. An AM win would make that very, very easy to do so. Very much looking like a promotion to Pro for Silva at the end of this season. All eyes on Zoenam for now. Does have the Mustang teammate of Schwartz immediately behind. Coming out of the tight S's, out of the kink of Aintree down the Wellington Straight. Seemingly trying to break the toe of the teammate. That Mustang on those straights really going to be a hard car to keep behind. You can catch them out in the turns such as Luffield, Stowe, and Copps. And Schwartz will build a little bit of room to the teammate and let Zoenam go for his first flying lap all alone. Just under 2 minutes a lap will give you a maximum of 5 laps, but you're going to burn one of those for your out lap, so really only 4 laps. If you're very quick across the line, you may just be able to sneak one more, but you'd have to be at the end of the pit lane and ready to go. And speaking of, they already have the pro field, Ouroboros, trying to get his first championship, and the teammate of Prieto a little bit further behind, already queuing up at the end of the pit lane. Out of Vale and into Club for Zoenam. See what kind of pace Zoenam is able to bring in the AM field. We have seen some surprise efforts. And Zoenam on the podium this season, really having improved in the past 2 seasons. Was maybe struggling to find some time in the Porsche and has now had some consistent efforts. And may be looking at a run at the AM Championship next season. Same thing for the teammate just behind of Schwartz in the Mustang. Both of these drivers, a lot of skill in AM, and when you get your AM Championship winner to promote to pro, it opens up some doors for the rest of the field behind. And this Mustang Motorsports team, if they decide to stay together into Season 6, really could be a top contender for that AM Championship. Cross line 2 minutes 0.65, but it's quicker for Schwartz, a 1:59.062. 1 second the difference between Zoenam and Chandler. Half a second clear of the AM Championship leader of Silva. Schwartz still quickest and by quite a large margin. Christian B. and Lynch, the 2 Joyride Racing teammates, bringing up the rear of the AM field for now. Sierra, who had seen some success early on in the season, just not quite had continuing results. Maybe looking for a little bit of retribution tonight. Scroll in the BMW. I don't believe that Scroll has raced in every race throughout this season. Actually, yes, he has. Scroll currently second in the AM Championship and does have an opportunity to put the fight on that championship, or the fight for that championship, onto Silva. Big mistake coming out of Club Corner. That's definitely going to kill some time, but currently on the AM pole, a 1/10 of a second clear of Schwartz, 6 1/4 tenths clear of the McLaren of Silva. And only about 2 laps left in terms of time on the clock for the AM field. Are there any of our AM drivers still yet to set a time? Manelli in the Aston Martin, our only driver yet to set a time. 38 drivers will take the green flag tonight. 16 in AM, and that leaves us 22 in Pro. If you'd like to stay in tune with the lap times out there on track, use !timing in the Twitch chat, and it will pull up the link to the live timing, and then from there, just click the GFR private drop-down. You can keep up with live timing both throughout the race and qualifying. And that link will also work for any SimBot integrated servers. Manelli moves up to P11. The 970 of Clint stays P13 for now. And the 30 of Peachy has come really close to some good results. I believe has been on the podium this season. And a couple more tenths could put him right back there in the running for that podium. Schwartz needs to find a tenth to take the provisional pole position away in AM from Scoliosis. Both Schwartz and Scroll looking for any semblance of a chance of taking away the AM championship from the orange McLaren 720S of Silva just in the background there. Silva currently needs to find 6.2 tenths of a second. It's quite a bit of time. Watching the deltas, he may be able to find it, he may not. One lap to go in qualifying. Schwartz did not find the improvement on that lap, has one more opportunity. Silva found a little bit of time. Sierra jumped up into fourth. We'll see if there's any improvement from here. And Jones in the Lexus, about a second off in P6, about where that second comes into play. Sierra in the pit lane. That is also the Mustangs of Lynch and Christian B. The 555 of Manelli across the line. Goes up to P5. The 333 of Cabe does not improve on that lap. Has one more opportunity. Clint across the line has one more shot to improve, and the 30 of Peachy also has one more shot to improve. "30 seconds away from our pro drivers being released, and Ouroboros is going to be at the front of that line, ready to be out there first, get into that clean air, and hopefully set the first and fastest lap in qualifying. Racing against his teammate, it's either a race for Ouroboros' first championship here with GoFAST Racing, or Prieto's second championship and the first time to do the double. A lot on the line, both this week and next week. Penultimate round here at Silverstone. Before we head into our final round, not going to be any improvement for Schwartz. What about for Chandler? No, also no improvement. And none for Zoanam either. Currently P9. Is there any improvement for Scroll? Can really put himself well into the field of those pros and not have too many AM drivers to contend with. And no, into the pit lane is not going to be any improvement for Scroll. What about for the 555 of Manelli? Out of left field. And still going for it. Cave, the teammate, immediately behind. Manelli currently P6. Doesn't find any improvement. Cave into the pit lane. What about the 970 of Clint? We'll continue to go on this lap. Will there be any improvement, though? There is improvement up to P12. That is our AM qualifying done and dusted. Scroll P1 Schwartz, P2 Silva, P3 Sierra, P4 Peachy, P5 Manelli, P6 Jones, P7 K, P8 Zoanon, P9 Nightwalker, P10 Chandler, P11 Clint, P12 Bradzilla, P13 Lynch, P14 Christian B, P15 and Rowden, P16. The pros are given free rein, let loose off the chain and ready to go. It's Ouroboros and Tychopath leading the charge. Tychopath really seems to have a run on Ouroboros. Ouroboros looking for the race win tonight. And a big slide through Copse. I don't think that's really going to be much of an improvement. And then invalidating the lap at the exit of Copse, and is now going to allow the field to go on through. And will slot in behind the 114 of Harold, just ahead of his teammate Prieto. Now, is this cooperation or sabotage? And well, I think that may have been a bit of miscommunication. It surely looks like sabotage there. Leading the charge is going to be the 456 McLaren of Tychopath. And the number 9 Aston Martin of Aramich immediately behind. Out of club corner for Tychopath. Into Abby, just trying to carry as much speed as possible. Coming into the loop of the S's. This is where you can make or break a lot of time. Really have to get the car rotated, but don't over-rotate and lose your pace. Very crucial traction zone, as you will carry all of that speed down the Wellington Straight. Aramich just behind, Trixit just behind as well. And the 114 Mustang of Harrell bringing up the rear of this group. The 24 Aston Martin of Brute will be coming across the line with this group as well. Out of left field through Woodcott for Tychopath. This will set the pace for the pro field. Is it faster than Scroll? It is, but not by much. And just barely quicker for Aramich, as Aramich sits in the top spot for the moment, but Brute takes it away. Griffith takes it away. Griffith, another one of those drivers to be watching out for. Has an opportunity, just 2 points behind Ouroboros, so Griffith has just as much opportunity to go for the championship as Ouroboros does. And Ouroboros at least needs to make sure that he covers off Griffith, finishes ahead, so he can at least try to ensure himself the points and P2, but must win situations for Griffith and Ouroboros in both this round and next round. I still don't know if it would be quite close enough. Someone has done the math, and if you're in the chat, if you can help me out with the math a bit. Phoenix Gecko wants to spoil the party. 158.5. We are going to see these lap times continue to drop. We were just right at the cusp of 157s, but track conditions may be a little different here tonight. Slapshot goes P2, 17 thousandths of a second off of Phoenix Gecko, and your top 4 within half a tenth of a second. Phoenix Gecko still quicker. What about the Aston Martin of Aramich? We have seen these Aston Martins start to bring some pace later on in the season. Is it an improvement here? It is, up to P6 for Aramich. Tychopath stays P8. 114 of Harrell currently P18. The 24 of Brute goes fastest. Then Griffith goes faster. First driver into the 157s. 157.967. Ormiston finds himself close to the top as well, but Goose knocks him down, and now the lap times are dropping. Prieto looking for the double in that championship. 85 thousandths of a second short of Griffith. Does he have the time? What about Ouroboros? Pushing too hard. Has he brought a time together? He has not. And only 2 more opportunities at that lap. It's now or never for Ouroboros. Cannot afford to not start in the top 5. And even then would have to be fairly aggressive to try and make up whatever pace he can, whatever space he can to contend for that lead. Again, must-win situations for Ouroboros and Griffith, and pretty much must-lose situations at the same time. They cannot afford a podium from Prieto or really anywhere in the top 10. 114 of Harrell has slowed down on track, I believe invalidated, letting the rest of the field go on by. The 62 BMW of Francisco, we have seen these BMWs really start to gain some pace later on in the season as well. Still invalid, sorry, not invalid there. P23 for Francisco. Ouroboros and Guzman both still yet to bring a time. Platypus as well. Aramich currently P11. Just over 3/4 of a second off of the pace of the pole sitter. Finds some small improvement, but gets knocked down to P12 as Tychopath goes just quicker. What about the 24 of Brute? Not much improvement. Ouroboros goes fastest to 157.6 and says that's all she's got. Goose goes third, then fourth fastest as Prieto takes the top spot, and Prieto is not done. 157.515. Still going for more. Griffith has a lot of work to do on this lap, but should be able to get another lap in. Brute will return to the pit lane. What about the 114 of Harrell across the line? No improvement there. What about for the number 91 of Phoenix Gecko? Needs about a second. Is not really going to find it. The 416 of Slapshot will have just enough time to get back across the line and go for one more lap should he choose to do so. Currently P5 sitting in a good spot. It is your top 3 in the championship, your top 3 in the running order. Prieto, Ouroboros, Griffith, that's just how they sit in the standings. Slapshot up to P4. Has another opportunity at a lap. What about for the 62 of Francisco? Into the pit lane will not improve. What about for the 21 of Platypus? Championship contender in Season 3, but things just not quite going his way here in Season 5. Has one more opportunity, but puts it P22 for the time being. Final time across the line for Aramich, Tychopath, and Trixit. Aramich currently P14, jumps up to P9. Tychopath jumps up to P9. Trixit will sit in P8. 39 of Griffith into the pit lane will not improve. Same with the 314 Mustang of Ouroboros. What about for the championship leader of Prieto? Does he find any more time? Yes, he does. And an absolutely blistering lap from the championship leader. Adrian goes P8, Nate P15, Salinas P16. The 993 of Tipper goes across the line. P17 bumps up to P16. Peach P14, Marvy P11. 114 will come into the pit lane and stay. P26 has been knocked down one position. And what about for the Mustang, or not the Mustang, the Mercedes of Platypus? And that group just behind, are they still on flying laps? I don't believe that Marvy is, and Marvy is not. Checkered flag has waved. Aramich, Tychopath, and Trixit all still seem to be on flying laps. We'll see what Platypus is able to bring. to Brooklyn's short shift, just for a little bit of torque with not too much power. A wiggle coming out of left field, and that is going to invalidate the lap. And a big moment and around backwards is Platypus, probably in frustration more than anything else. Aramich out of left field with Tychopath and Trixit. The gap between Tychopath and Trixit has grown. Currently P12 for Aramich. Does he find any improvement here? No, he does not. Tychopath P10, Trixit P9. Once again, it is Prieto at the top. Prieto, Ouroboros, Griffiths, Slapshot, Goose, Brute, Ormiston. Adrian, Trixit, Tychopath, Marvy, Aramich, Phoenix, Peach, Nate, Tipper, Salinas, Scroliosis, Schwartz, Silva, Sierra, Platypus, Peachy, Manelli, Francisco, Harold, Jones, Cave, Zoanam, Nightwalker, Chandler, Clint, Bradzilla, Lynch, Christian B, Rowden, Dingham, Iceberg, and Guzman, your running order. We will take a short break and we will be right back for the penultimate round of Go Fast Racing Season 5. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are just about to get rolling. We are engines fired for the formation lap for the second to last time here with Go Fast Racing in Season 5. And Prieto and Ouroboros, the two teammates battling amongst each other for the overall championship. and Griffith in the red Mustang behind. The next best, hoping to go for that championship as well. It is close running between the three. And results tonight could have major implications in this championship. Prieto needs to finish ahead of both Ouroboros and Griffith, needs to cover them off. It has to be a dominant effort from Prieto, but we have seen that GTR maybe have a little bit harder time running during the race compared to qualifying. Prieto does run the cars a little bit of a challenge after winning the championship in the season prior, but also likes to run those outlier cars. Prieto, must-win situation, not because he needs the points, but because he needs to cover off Ouroboros and Griffith. Either of those drivers could possibly take the win tonight. They've got the pace to be up there. They've got the aggression. They've got the drive. Going to have to try and hold those two back. The top three, look out for the red cars, as they are going to be the ones fighting for this championship. Now, not much separation between Scroll and Schwartz. Scroll needs to gather together everything that he can get for a run at Silva tonight. Needs Silva to not have the best finish in order to close up the gap and lead to a possible championship situation next week at Imola. Scroll in a must-win situation as well. Silva has done a lot of work throughout the season. Scroll is not far behind though. Schwartz, I think, is outside of the realm of possibility. Scroll is just barely inside that realm of possibility, but is not impossible. Prieto needs this situation right here at the front, all by himself. No one around, no one to bother him. Ouroboros and Griffith both trying to take that lead away from Prieto. They don't need to fight amongst themselves too hard and allow Prieto to run away with it. Prieto, once he gets out in front, typically stays out front, unless there is a mistake or something else that happens to the Nissan driver. But his previous championship was an inevitability that was coming regardless. And now Prieto wants to be the first time to do the double. A win tonight would pretty much guarantee the double for Prieto. But a poor race tonight opens the door wide open for both Ouroboros or Griffith to come in and steal the top spot, sit on the throne just before Coronation Day. We'll see if Prieto can stay the king of the hill. Two contenders, one to his left, one to his rear, as Prieto will take the green flag. The two Brute Force teammates have been very, very quick. Watch them as well. And Slapshot, the wild card, can pull out anything tonight. Green, 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 Prieto, Ouroboros, Griffith, Slapshot, your top four as they come out of Cops. Adrian and Goose getting elbows out between each other. Slapshot is going to be that wild card, slots in ahead of Griffith, and now Slapshot going to apply pressure to Ouroboros. Prieto got the start that he needed, but Ouroboros is right there with him. And the way these two race, there is a ton of talent between the two, and looking back through the field, everything seems to be okay for the time being. Slapshot wants to go for it early. They are jostling and jockeying for position all the way back through the field. Slapshot aggressive, wants to go for the position against Ouroboros. Ouroboros does not need that. Ouroboros needs to try and keep up with his teammate. I don't know the exact communication between the two, whether or not Prieto says, hey, I'll just kind of race fine throughout the season and maybe give it to you at the end, or if Prieto's like, brother, I do love you, but if it comes down to the championship, we'll race like we've never raced before. And it seems to be from that big defense from Prieto going into Abbey trying to break the toe that is exactly the case. An extremely clean first lap so far. And no incidents so far. This is a bit of a development though. Silva in the McLaren falling back down the order. It is a race in class, less points overall or less points distribution. So going down the order is not necessarily going to hurt the points all too much. Prieto will lead the first lap of the race. Ouroboros, the teammate, Ouroboros, the championship contender, only 0.4 of a second behind. The gap has opened to Slapshot and Griffith, though. Griffith not really going to be very happy about that one, as he wanted to be the one in Slapshot's position trying to push the envelope onto Prieto and Ouroboros, but it is just early days in the race. Anything can happen. Scroll has his dream outcome that he needed. Scroll currently leading in AM P16 overall. The 720 McLaren of Silva has dropped back down the order a bit. This will, at least for the time being, award more points to Scroll, but Silva is not one that gets beaten down and stays down. Silva will fight his way back up. Could potentially see Silva in the podium or fighting for that second spot before too long. And still the slugfest between the two teammates. Ouroboros on Prieto coming into the loop, trying to size up the move. Prieto gets a little bit of that sausage curve on the inside. Not very easy to get traction on those elevated curves, unsettle the suspension. The car over-rotates just a bit. Prieto trying to break the toe of the teammate. Not really much working down into Brooklyn, so Ferrari does seem to be a little bit better on the brakes and on that rotation. Ouroboros will just try and size up the move on his teammate whenever he can. Ouroboros does seem to be a bit on the front foot. Kind of ran out of track, had to give it a little bit of a pedal coming out of left field. Slapshot and Griffith are right there back in it. If Ouroboros and Prieto can continue to battle amongst each other, Slapshot and Griffith can stay within that slipstream range and just sit idly by waiting for the opportunity to arise. Goose and the BMW just a bit further behind, and then the two Brute Force teammates of Adrian and Brute. Again, with kind of the momentum that these two have had later on in the season, if they have this momentum all the way throughout the season, they would be top contenders in that Pro Team Championship. Currently P4 in those standings, and really not far away from moving up into the podium. They need 1 point ahead of the Team BDK mod duo. And as of right now, with Trixon and Aramich immediately behind, that may be a possibility, and there may be a change of position in the AM Championship. It was very tight between Prieto and Ouroboros. Now the gap has opened up. Was less than 1/10 at the last timing line. Ouroboros now maybe getting a little bit more impatient. Slapshot is applying the pressure. And they are still bunched up behind. As Prieto and Ouroboros continue to fight, they'll just keep the field bunched up behind. The last thing that Ouroboros will need right here is opposition from Slapshot. Too much pressure being applied. Ouroboros is forced to go defensive, and that is just going to be releasing the chain letting Prieto off the leash, in which case he would just run away with the lead. But as of right now, Ouroboros sitting calm in the pressure cooker as he's got his championship contender just ahead and the wild card of Slapshot just behind, who wants to take it away. Riding overhead with Peach, just kind of watching the group around. Tipper and Nate. Porsche versus Mustang. We'll see if Tipper really loves to use those iconic Porsche liveries. See if Tipper can keep the Mustang of Nate behind. Getting closer once again between the two teammates of Prieto and Ouroboros. Slapshot still in tow behind. Griffith starting to maybe drop off back into no man's land. Could be good for Griffith, could be bad. Ouroboros gets a great run as they come into the S's section. Is Ouroboros going to be able to get a nose up the inside? No, but the pressure is being applied. Prieto having to go defensive. Is the old switcheroo maybe going to be set up? Coming out of the loop? No. Through Aintree? No. Still not much working. Prieto now having to go very defensive. Slapshot and Griffith all close enough that they do an Indianapolis snake coming down the Wellington Straight. And I think Prieto is starting to feel the heat coming from behind. Slapshot getting a little bit offline. Maybe Slapshot started to look for some opportunities as well. Scroll starting to get into his own groove. Where is the 720 McLaren of Silva? Just right behind the Ferrari of Sierra. Currently P5 in AM. Back on with the championship battle. Slapshot still there, Griffith still there. BMW of Goose leading Adrian and Trixit. Brute wanting to go for a move on Trixit. Brute currently holds the fastest lap of the race. Brute goes up the inside, closes the door. Trixit will not be able to get that position back. May go for a lunge into Vale. Thinks better of it. Two Brute Force teammates starting to work their way up through the field. And what has happened here? The three of Ouroboros off and around. Was there contact between Slapshot and Griffith? I don't really see much damage there, but Ouroboros' championship hopes may be dashed from that incident right there. Is it going to be an entry into the pit lane to try and hope to reclaim some sort of track position back? Ouroboros is quicker. The rest of the field knows that. And now Ouroboros frantically trying to pick up positions has fallen back well down the order. Just in front of the 99 of Schwartz, down to 18th overall, from second down to 18th. That incident has bunched up the group behind. Slapshot, Griffith, and Goose now all together. And Prieto, this is the nightmare situation for anyone wanting to go for a championship. Prieto all on his own at the front of the field. I don't think we see the three of Ouroboros come into the pit lane. No, we don't. He just had to slot back in with the rest of the field. I don't see much damage there. Don't know if there was contact, but I'm sure we'll see a steward's report about it later on. But that is massively detrimental to the championship hopes of Ouroboros. Ormiston comes into the pit lane early. Zoanam comes into the pit lane early as well. Was this a return to the garage for Ormiston? It may have been with that yellow flag showing. Brute and Adrian have found themselves in the top 6. Brute into the top 5. And on the front foot, trying to find some time. Catch up to the race leaders. Slapshot still trying to hold on to the slipstream of Prieto. Is just barely on the outside cusp of it. Sierra around, and around with who? It may have been the Lexus of Jones and the Aston Martin of Cabe. They have been dropped down the order a little ways. Bradzilla there as well. Seems like there may have been some contact, but I'm sure of exactly the details there. And Lynch had gone around in the Mustang as well. Silva has come into the pits to get offline and run in some clean air. That may be the best strategy for Silva. Get out of those busy groups of cars running in the mid-pack. Jones with this very dense group. Sierra immediately behind. Sierra, Cabe, Bradzilla, and Clint all running close together. The 25 of Christian B going a bit wide at the exit of the loop. More pit stops. Scroll comes in, Ouroboros comes in, Harrell comes in, and I think Ouroboros maybe didn't want to come into the pit lane by himself. Prieto still out front. Not quite alone though. Slapshot and Griffith still being at least a slight nuisance behind. And Goose has the Aston Martin of Brute challenging for P4. Marby right behind the BMW of Phoenix Gecko, and maybe a lunge heading into Vale. Marby took at least an inside line. Was not quite enough to go for the move there into Vale. Right behind though, Tipper and Tychopath side by side coming out of Club Corner. And Tychopath has a nudge. Somehow manages to hold on to it. Will drop back a couple positions. Rejoins right behind the 21 Mercedes of Pro Platypus. Scoliosis from the AM lead and trying to go for that AM championship. A 30-second stop and go penalty is definitely not going to be what he was looking for. Pitting on strategy and just having it all completely go away, and Cabe gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. The 83 Mercedes of Chandler off and backwards. And the 14 Ferrari of Bradzilla gets returned to the garage. Went spearing off through the S's section there. And Schwartz in the Mustang had a bit of a rough run through there as well. Brute has overtaken Goose. Goose now under attack from the Porsche of Adrian. And this Brute Force team really is starting to bring forward the effort. It is a bit too late in the season for it to count much towards points. Again, they are looking at a promotion in the standings to P3, at least as it stands now. But battle here between Adrian and Trixit. Adrian now having to go a bit defensive into Stowe. Squeezes Trixit to the outside. Trixit tries to maybe get a drive up through the inside. It's not really going to work though. Will it be a lunge into Vale though? No, it will not. Adrian slides over, covers to move off. And it is Brute Force Racing versus Team BDK Mod to try and hold on to this P3 in the championship. These two teams fighting for crucial championship points to be on that podium. Scroll still with that 30-second stop and go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Extremely unfortunate for Scroll, not what he was looking for tonight. And that may dash any championship hopes that Scroll may have had. Slapshot, Prieto, and Griffith. Pit strategy going to become a major factor between these two, or between these three, I should say. Is the undercut going to be strong? Is the overcut going to be strong? We know that Prieto likes to run tires long, and Prieto, if anyone has proven that he can do it. Griffith now holds the fastest lap of the race, though, and I can absolutely assure you that Griffith is pushing that Mustang as hard as he can. The gaps have stayed pretty steady among the top three. Again, Ouroboros having the spin and getting put back down the order is the furthest ahead of those drivers that have come into the pit lane. And what has happened to Goose? Off and around at Maggots and Beckett's, a bit of damage on that BMW. There was already some damage on it prior. Wonder if any more has been added. And was racing with Brute and Adrian. Stewards may be looking at an incident there, as neither Brute nor Adrian have dropped time. Could just be a complete racing incident or an accident on Goose's part. There is a touch more damage than there was. Brute Force versus Team BDK Mod. Two teams, 4 teammates across 2 teams, all racing here together. We'll see if Trixit and Aramich are able to really rally much effort to take the position away from Adrian. Teammate of Brute has kind of run off into the distance a bit further ahead. Adrian now forced to go defensive, try and hold the 2 competitors back. Team BDK Mod P3 in the championship, Brute Force P4. Trixit almost lost that McLaren coming into Luffield. Just barely managed to hold on to it. That is going to bunch both himself and Aramich up together. Slapshot starting to lose some time to Prieto. We are just about at the halfway point. We do get some of our first takers. Peach comes into the pit lane. We'll see if we have any more drivers coming in. The 456 of Tychopath comes into the pit lane. Trixit has allowed Aramich to go on ahead. Aramich is now going to try and take the position away from Adrian and hold on to the point margin that Team BDK Mod needs to stay in P3 for that championship, for the team championship. Peach now rolling out of the pit lane. Ouroboros has pit. Now this is going to be an indicator of where Ouroboros is really going to be in terms of track position and pit strategy after that spin at Club Corner a few laps ago. Peach has exited the pit lane, and Ouroboros is just now coming out of Cops. We'll get ahead of Tychopath, but stays behind Peach. Manelli finding himself in a bit of an odd situation, currently leading in AM. Manelli in a ripe position for his first AM win of the season. And this would be a major turnaround, major morale boost for Manelli. Just needs to make sure that his pit stop is going to be clear. Griffith breaks from the mold and comes into the pit lane from P3. Goose comes in, Salinas comes in, the Top Gun Racing team both getting the call to come into the pit lane. Francisco and Guzman both come into the pit lane as well. Manelli and Peachy both in very good opportunities. Manelli currently looking at a race win, and Peachy looking for another podium. Big moment coming into Maggots and Beckett's there for Manelli, though. Seems a bit late on the brakes and almost had the rear of the car go around. Griffith out of the pit lane. Comes out just ahead of the Mustang of Rowden. Goose and Salinas side by side between the two coming out of the pit lane. And the team very quick to get both of those cars in and out of the pit box. Francisco and Guzman stops are clear. Clint comes into the pit lane. And where is Peach in all of this? Looking for the 39 of Griffith. Just coming out of Stowe, as Peach is just coming down the hanger straight coming into Stowe. Prieto has now grown the gap. I think the pressure from Griffith not being there has kind of let Slapshot maybe lean off the throttle just a bit. Slapshot comes into the pit lane. So does Brute in the Aston Martin. So does Aramich in the Aston Martin. 91 of Phoenix stays out. Does seem like we have the 427 Mustang of Nate coming into the pit lane and the 993 Porsche of Tipper in the pit lane as well. Prieto, as expected, is going to be left to his devices out on track all on his own, and this is really the position where Prieto thrives. No one around. Everyone has already come into the pit lane, and Prieto is just able to push alone, just now halfway through the race. We'll see how much longer Prieto goes. We've seen him go very, very long stints on tires that you'd think will have surely died of death by then. And, well, no, he's still pushing some of the fastest laps of the race on those older tires. There's a reason that he is a reigning champion. And if there is anyone worthy of the first ever GFR double in terms of that championship, Prieto is definitely one of the top picks. Dingham and Peachy, a little bit of a scrap between the two. Jones and Sierra in the pit lane. Jones just off the jacks and going by. Sierra still on the jacks. Chandler in the pit lane as well as Sierra, or as Jones goes on by. And Chandler looking like he's going to score a position in the pit lane just ahead of Sierra. Christian B in the pit lane and Cabe just now getting off the jacks as well. Prieto, the race leader, comes into the pit lane and has a bit of a time missing the box, has the roll forward. That is going to be crucial time lost in the pit lane. Adrian currently P2, Trixit P3, Phoenix Gecko P4, Marvy P5, Platypus P6, and Peachy top 7 of the field. 7 cars coming into the pit lane. Dingham will stay out, and Dingham will lead a lap of this race. Dingham and Rowden, your two drivers, still yet to come into the pit lane. And Prieto just now rolling out of the pit lane, trying to get up to speed though. And where is the 39 of Griffith? He's not far behind. Where is the 416 of Slapshot, though? He's even closer. Now, Griffith could have a blessing and a curse in the 24 Aston Martin of Brute. Dingham stays out, scored the leader, will come into the pit lane before too long. Griffith and Adrian now starting to race amongst themselves, and I can assure you this is not what Griffith wants. Griffith just wants some cooperation to maybe move forward and start battling Prieto really needs to just finish ahead of Prieto. Needs to win this race more than anything else, but needs to finish ahead of Prieto to try and close up whatever of that gap he can. And Brute, looking for a podium, is not really going to be too keen to letting Griffith run away. Slapshot, 1 lap older tires, 1 lap warmer tires though, trying to apply the pressure to Prieto. Prieto will be on fresher tires at the end of the race. Is it enough to be much to compensate the speed of Slapshot or Prieto? We did see Slapshot start to maybe fall off from Prieto towards the end of the first stint. But with fresh tires on that McLaren, Slapshot certainly has the talent to be able to apply that pressure to Prieto. And Dingham will stay out and lead another lap of this race. This is definitely not what Griffith needed. He has the Aston Martin of Brute really trying to go for the position, and Griffith now having to be defensive is just going to watch that gap up ahead. McLaren, the Slapshot, the GTR of Prieto just get smaller and smaller in the distance. Cannot let the Aston Martin of Brute get close enough to try and attack for the position. Has to just continue to push. But this weaving down the hanger straight just shows that he is feeling that pressure, is aware of the presence of Brute. And Brute definitely wanting to make that presence known with that slight look at a lunge into Stowe. And Griffith now forced to go wide, may have gotten a track limit warning from that. And side by side, this is good racing, but again, it's not what Griffith needs if he wants to have any shot at this championship heading into the final round. Riding on board with Brute, who is trying to apply that pressure to Griffith. May go for the move here coming into the loop. Maybe has a nose up the inside at the loop. Yes, he does, side by side, and it's going to be the old switcheroo for Brute. And Brute finds himself in P3. Prieto and Slapshot. Slapshot is up there applying the pressure. Brute, as Griffith wants to take that position right back. It's good racing side by side, but again, not what Griffith needs to go for this championship. That Aston Martin may be a bit of a sitting duck as the Mustang tries to come by, but trying to maybe push a little bit too hard. And now Griffith, with a wiggle of the rear tires coming out of left field, has to try and regain momentum. Prieto and Slapshot continuing on with their fight. What about the Amfield? Peachy has found himself in the lead of the race ahead of Manelli. And Dingham just now rolling out of the pit lane. Will slot down somewhere around maybe 20th. All said and done. Maybe further back than that, as Guzman and Manelli come out right alongside, so it'll be right about P21, P22 for Dingham when he comes out of the pit lane, rejoins the track. Pressure still being applied from Slapshot. The pressure seems to be getting greater, and a little bit of lap traffic may come into the fold as well. It's the 14 of Bradzilla we saw just in the foreground for a moment. Slapshot wants to go for this move on Prieto. It's now or never while he has the car healthy enough to do it. Has to really try and line up this move. Prieto is not a sitting duck when it comes to playing defense. But a 3-second gap has developed between Slapshot and Brute. And this is just championship hopes fading on into the nothingness for Griffith. Adrian, the Brute Force teammate, has been overtaken by Aramich and Trixit. but we'll see if Adrian is able to get back up at the top. Schofield, thank you for the raid once again. And the race is going great. Penultimate round of GoFast Racing Season 5. We currently have a major battle between Prieto and Slapshot for the win. Prieto just trying to defend the championship. Has the championship lead, and his two competitors have pretty much been removed from the equation. Ouroboros caught up with an incident racing directly with his teammate in the championship lead. And then Griffith just getting caught up in battles, having to fall back just a bit. Again, thank you, Schofield Racing. Appreciate the raid as always. Please go follow Schofield Racing. Thank you for another raid. Slapshot and Prieto coming into Abbey. Desperately trying everything that he can. Slapshot has the tires on the car, but again has 2 lap older tires than the GTR of Prieto. Prieto came in later, has the fresher tires when we get down to the closing stages of this race. About 12 minutes to go. When Slapshot starts to have those deteriorating tires, Prieto will be the one to pull away and have the advantage. Going a bit further back, Nate under attack from Marvy and Goose. Tychopath, who got involved with a little bit of elbows earlier, found himself in P15. Iceberg, who had a quali ban, has shifted his way up to P18, is fighting against the BMW of Francisco, who has a bit of a wiggle coming out of left field. The door opens right up. Iceberg steps on through. Tipper in the 993 Porsche is also looking to get past, coming into Copse, and thinks better of it. History of 2 cars side by side through Copse is not indicative to one or the other's survival. Prieto and Slapshot, the gap getting closer and closer. The closer you get, the harder it is to overtake. Is Slapshot going to be able to go for this move? Tipper in the 993 Porsche gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. We'll have to serve that, and we'll drop way down the grid. Slapshot is getting closer, is getting antsy. He knows that he has to go for the move while he has the car to do so. A lot easier to get in front than play a little bit of defense than to try and play offense with the weaker car. Prieto very much going for the defensive line down the Wellington straight. Coming into Brooklands, mid-engine McLaren does seem to rotate on the brakes a little bit better than the GTR. A bit of a wiggle. We see some action in the steering wheel from Slapshot. That's indicative of tires that are maybe getting a little bit worn. Has been about 15 minutes since Slapshot came into the pit lane. Aramich and Trixie continuing to run as they were. Adrian right there behind, still in competition. Marvy just a quarter of a second behind the Mustang of Nate. Goose in the BMW there as well. And going back to that AM lead, Peachy has found himself at the top spot. Silva with his competitors, having gotten that penalty. Schwartz, I don't think, is quite close enough. Scoliosis was the top contender there, and I think Scoliosis kind of understood that the championship hopes were going to be dashed then and there. They really were with that 30-second stop-and-go penalty, and has decided to retire the car. There will be no championship for Scroll, and it will likely be Silva clinching the championship at the end of the night. Still plenty of racing, plenty of things to happen. So cannot confirm anything yet, but we will have a clearer picture of our championships at the checkered flag tonight. Slapshot now opening up. That gap is still within slipstream range, but not quite as close as he was earlier. I think the tire disparity may start to show now. They come out of Woodcut and across the line. The gap is now growing almost a second. Now Slapshot is outside of that slipstream range. This trio of Aramage, Trixit, and Adrian continuing to run. They have been grouped up like this for quite some time. And Nate, Murphy, Goose, Platypus, all four together here close. So there may be some opportunity for an overtake coming shortly there. Nate does seem to be playing a bit defensive against Marvy and Goose, or at least Marvy. He gets a little bit offline through Maggots and Beggips. This group is bunching up behind, going all the way back to Salinas in the McLaren, the number 10 McLaren Tycopath, running off into the grass and still going off into the grass at the exit of Chapel. Sure what exactly caused all of that movement there. Peachy, everything seeming to go in his favor. Manelli not far behind, but Peachy in a really good spot to take what might be his first AM win of the season. Just has to hold on to the position. Adrian now starting to find some momentum on Trixit. Adrian wants to go the long way around the outside. It's not easy to do in the Porsche. It has to slot in behind the McLaren of Trixit. But the pressure is there, and Adrian knows that he's got the speed to at least get a position, at least for the time being. Just a couple laps left in this race, about 3 laps to go. And Trixit telling Aramage, hey, this guy in this Porsche is applying a little bit of pressure. And the 993 Porsche of Tipper, I think, forgot to come into the pit lane, has been black flagged and parked for the night. Had that drive-through penalty for track limits and waited a bit too long to serve it. Big moment for Adrian coming out of Stowe. And that was a code brown flag coming out of Stowe there. Massive correction, a lot of action in the steering wheel there, I can guarantee you that. Slapshot, one last hurrah. Getting into that slipstream range, and, well, Brute has finally put some pace back on that Aston Martin, and Griffith is just left all on his own. Aramage P5 Trixit, P6 Adrian. I think with Griffith in between, the Brute Force team may just barely be ahead in terms of points for the team championship, but if Adrian can get ahead of Trixit, that would bump the Brute Force team into the 3rd spot in that team championship. and be a last-minute shakeup in the team championships. Again, a lot can happen next week at the final round at Imola. It seems to be that our class champions may be decided tonight. Nothing is official until the checkered flag waves and the points are tallied and penalties applied if necessary. Peachy just a couple laps away from the checkered flag, from the AM victory. And yes, I do believe this would be Peachy's first and I believe only AM win in GFR. Slapshot once again closes up the gap, but is not quite able to get close enough to go for the move. We'll see how much time is left on the clock when they come to the line. It is very possible that the next lap is the last lap of the race, and it does seem like it will be very, very tight margins there. I think we will get 2 more laps left to go, so Slapshot has another lap to try and build whatever speed he can, but Prieto in the GTR seems to be pulling away down the Wellington Straight. Brute right there in the background may have the opportunity to go for the move on Slapshot if he can close up a gap. That is a large gap to close, but it's not impossible. Aramix, Trixit, and Adrian still with their battle. Trixit still defensive, trying to keep the Porsche of Adrian behind. Ouroboros has worked his way into the top 10, but not what he was looking for tonight. Getting spun around and then having to come into the pit lane off cycle just makes things a lot more difficult. And just championship hopes dashed in the penultimate round of the season. I'm not sure it's a 100% clinch for Prieto. We will break down the math post-race, so join us in the Discord server as we take a look at the what-ifs and the what can happens of the final round next week at Imola. Adrian has a couple more opportunities at maybe getting this position away from Trixit. We'll see how much he wants it, though. And I believe there is going to be 1 more lap of the race. Won't be many seconds left on the clock, and Slapshot has opened that gap up to over a second now, and Prieto is going to put himself 1 step closer to the double championship. And has had the determination to be the one and only 2-time champion, back-to-back champion in GoFAST racing history. 1.2 seconds to gap now. Now Brute closer to Slapshot than Slapshot is to Prieto. And Prieto will cross the line to start the final lap of this race. And as I said early in the race and in qualifying, if Prieto is able to get out front and stay out front, there's not really much anyone can do to try and take the lead away. Prieto is just a dominant effort when he's able to sit out front in clean air and log the laps, just as he has done tonight. Adrian still has a couple opportunities to get this position away from Trixit. And Brute may be looking at a second place position. And I think the Brute Force team will be finding themselves in the top spot, or not the top spot, but in P3, just ahead of Team BDK Mod in the team championship. There is some lap traffic in the Mustangs of Rowden and Christian B as Prieto pulls up behind. And Bruce wants to get the second place spot away from Slapshot. Has had a monster run once he broke free of Griffith, and lap traffic going to make things a little bit more interesting as well. I think Brute may be at the detriment there and won't be quite close enough to go for the move on Slapshot. Prieto wasn't alone. He does have some competition close behind, but there has been no one in front. One step closer to GFR history. Prieto will take the checkered flag and win round 9. Slapshot P2, Brute P3. Griffith will bring home P4. And think about what could have been. Aramich P5, Tricks at P6, Adrian P7. And we'll see if the Brute Force team leapfrogs the Team BDK mod duo. Phoenix Gecko P8, Peach P9, Nate P10, Marvy P11, Platypus P12, Goose P13, Ouroboros P14, Salinas P14, Ouroboros P13, Tychopath P15, Iceberg P16, Guzman P17, Francisco P18 racing with Dingham side by side as they come through the final corner. Francisco will take P18, Dingham P19, Peachy takes the win in AM. I'm sure there's going to be some celebration there from the McLaren. Manelli P2, Schwartz P3, Silva brings home P4 and should have the championship clinched now. Jones will bring home P5 and AM. Chandler will bring home P6, Sierra P7, Nightwalker P8. Zoanam and Clint for P9. Clint goes a bit too wide. I think Zoanam may have it. Clint will bring home P10. Rowden will bring home P11 and Lynch will bring home P12. Bradzilla P13. M&M Racing find themselves on the top spot. Peachy takes home the win. PG Manelli Silva. Sorry, not PG Manelli Silva. I guess it is PG Manelli Silva. I believe it was PG Manelli Schwartz in AM. And Prieto, Slapshot, and Brute in Pro. That is your finishing order. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will find someone to raid. And we will get ready for the next round, the final round of GoFast Racing Season 5. It will be our season finale at Imola. Thank you all for tuning in, and we are going to go ahead and raid. Let's see. Doesn't really seem to be too many people on right now. Let's go ahead and raid Neats. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.